Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing those of you who are going to be joining us live. It's 8 o'clock Thursday night. We've got the lovely Mark Humphrey joining us from MHC Mortgages. He's my lovely chum. We do some work together and we're also quite local. He's Whitstable based and I'm sort of near Faversham. So we're also very geographically local to each other. We met on networking sessions, didn't we? We're sort of now doing some work with a colleague together with our coaching for financial wellbeing for corporate employees, which is lovely, good fun. So welcome, Mark. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Yeah, really good. Thank you. It's being half term and the usual juggle with the children and everything, but yeah, it's fun times, isn't it? We've got a new Prime Minister this week. Everything's up in the air, but yeah, there's loads to be happy and positive about. And actually, it's a lovely day out there today, and yeah, all seems good with the world.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, politics is a very interesting topic. I mean, to be a journalist, I suppose, in these times, it's been really exciting, I suppose, if that's your thing, you're a political journalist, it must be hilarious. But yeah, you're half term. How old are your three daughters? Three daughters, Paul Mark has, obviously, and a wife. So house of girls.
I know, yeah. Bring on the sympathy now, please. 14, 12 and 10. So in about 2.5 years, we'll have 3 teenage girls in the house. So maybe looking for a bigger shed or somewhere to disappear off to.
Certainly working all day and all night and every weekend anyway to get out of the way. Yeah. Anyway, so Mark's coming to join us this evening to talk, well, mortgages. Mark does mortgages from, beginning to end of every kind of mortgage you can imagine he will do. But specifically, because he's got such an incredible podcast that is geared very much towards first-time home buyers, I thought it'd be really sensible if we get Mark to chat about exactly that. So I know I've got a couple of friends who have got, grown-up kids who are sort of 27, 30 years old, and they're looking to get on the property ladder. And it's a bit scary out there at the moment. Don't quite know what you don't know. One of my friends' son has got, considerable amounts saved up, but actually kind of scared to even have that conversation with the mortgage broker. So Mark, just give us a little overview about who you are and sort of what you do and what you know.
Yeah, sure. Right. Well, I hope that might not take too long, but so yeah, I'm Mark Humphrey. So I've been in mortgages for just over 20 years, actually. So I've seen rather a few different, or probably the evolution of mortgages, if you like, and quite a few different things. And back when interest rates were, your average interest rate was around about 5%, and we're not too far away from that now.
Yeah.
One of my real passions is helping, as you said, helping people. For me, it's making a difference, and it's helping really simplify the process of buying both your first home and your next home and so forth. But I think there's so much help is needed out there because it's the sort of thing that we're just not taught at school. If we're lucky and our parents are quite savvy with finances, they may have an idea and help us sort of buy our first home in terms of explaining how it might work. But equally, if they did that 20, 30, 40 years ago, invariably it's going to be different anyway. So with that in mind, I set up the Ready to Buy podcast last year. So you can find that. We'll put the link in the comments. I'm sure it's readytobuypodcast.uk. And we've got 2 series there. And series 1 really focuses on the journey, literally from thinking you want to buy your first home all the way through, all the steps you can take through to picking up your keys and the really exciting bit, I would say. But really, the key thing is for me is breaking it down and simplifying things. And it's daunting, but it's daunting because you've not done it before.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I'm really passionate about is just trying to make it more simple, feel a lot easier, because buying your first home should be such a positive experience.
Yeah, exciting.
I say that so much. It's a massive deal, deal. And to have it sort of almost overshadowed by the stress levels and the worry, it's so disappointing when I hear people that I sort of meet that have been through that before I speak with them, because it really should be such a great time.
I agree. And I remember my first time, and I felt like I'd gone through the ringer. You know, by the time I sat down on my grubby old carpet that obviously was soon to be ripped up, I wrote a blog on this only last week, and it's about sitting on my grubby carpet and a bottle of Prosecco and a mug, you know, to drink it out of. My fish and chips still in the wrapper, and I didn't even know where my cutlery was. So I was just sort of like eating it with my fingers, thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm home." Oh, it's so scary! Yay! You know, you go through all these emotions, don't you, about what the hell's going on. It's been such a ride, but of course, what you do need is some good people on your team. You know, you need a good mortgage broker, you need a great solicitor, and invariably, if you've got those two people in place, and hopefully a reputable and very good estate agents, between the three people, you know, if they've got good communication skills between them, then of course, then you're laughing. You're home and dry, but that isn't always the case. But I know you're really tenacious when it comes to maintaining a positive communication, you know, with the people who are involved in the process.
Yeah, very much so. And with us at MHC Mortgages, we've got a team. So I have a couple of administrators who work with me, who their sole role is to support the back office. Believe it or not, for every mortgage that we organise, there's between about 6 and 8 hours worth of work for us on average.
Yes, a lot.
And certainly that amount of work, you as a buyer, you wouldn't necessarily see all that, but there's an awful lot of things we do in the background. And a lot of other brokers will do the same thing. And it's really not just about getting the mortgage for you and disappearing and right, my work here's done. It's very much about supporting you from the very outset. So from those initial conversations to help you understand what's possible, all the way through to picking your keys up. And even then, that's really just the start, because I did a blog, it was quite some time ago now, but it was a mortgage broker is for life, not just for Christmas. And that nice. Sort of shoehorned a bit of a thing in there, but essentially saying, actually, you're getting a good mortgage broker, like a good mechanic, like a good accountant, if you're self-employed.
Plumber.
Yeah, plumber, all of the tradespepeople, actually, you get someone in that's going to support you. I find that people come back to me and just say, right, Mark, we're looking to do this. What do we need to do, or what are our options? And it makes it so simple rather than having to start again. And that's where I would always advocate using a mortgage broker and finding a good one that you can trust, and that they'll have your back. And don't just go to your bank, because your bank, they might be great, they probably are great, but they'll only be able to tell you what they can do.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised, actually. Every bank, every lender, bank or building society, they'll all look at you through an ever so slightly different lens when it comes to mortgages. So when it comes to affordability, so determining actually how much you can borrow, the type of properties they like can vary, for example, and all sorts of other sort of criteria around things like deposits. So going just to your bank is like going and going to a restaurant of one thing, whereas actually go and have a choice and pick the best thing for you rather than just the one thing that's available.
Yeah, no, good point. And what's going on in the market? I know it's a really tough thing for me to even ask what's going on in the market, but obviously all we've heard in the news is how difficult things are in terms of borrowing and lending and all the rest of it, and interest rates, and it's all very big crisis, and but what has been going on in the last sort of few weeks, or what's going on right now? So someone is listening to this or listens to it over the course of the next few days and thinks, oh, I'd quite like to chat to somebody. What are we talking about in terms of sort of interest rates kind of at the moment?
Yeah, well, it's a really good point. And I think I would start off by saying with the market, I mean, if you're watching live, it might be different from when you're watching back, but I jest in that. As we've all seen sort of the political debacle and the sort of the Prime Minister and the change in Parliament and things that's gone on. But essentially, I don't know how far back we should go here, but we've had a very low interest rate for a period probably since the credit crunch, which was 2008. So for the last sort of 13, 14 years, we've had historically low interest rates, where the Bank of England base rate and rates in general have been in the sort of 1s and 2%, if you like. Depending on your circumstances, but in 1s and 2s. Yeah. And the Bank of England that set interest rates, one of their prime sort of goals is to control inflation. And so with inflation, as we're all aware of what's happening in Ukraine at the moment, and the fuel crisis is bumping up the cost of fuel, which in turn bumps up the cost of food, services, literally everything is going up in cost, isn't it? And so with inflation going up, the Bank of England, to try and counteract that, one of their only real sort of blunt tools is to increase interest rates. So interest rates have increased since December last year. They've increased by actually a couple of just over 2% with that. But there are other things going on in the market, and has an awful lot to do with confidence. And so we've seen a bit of flux over the last few weeks. I think it will settle down now that we've got a new prime minister, but without a crystal ball, we don't know. But ultimately, we're now looking at interest rates that are a fair bit higher than they were this time last year. But what I would say is one of my biggest bits of advice is all of our situations are different. And so you understand what it means for you is so important. And so not to panic, not to worry about all of the sort of the scare stories that you see and things, and not to chat too much to your friends and people in the pub. One of the worst things you can do is go and get advice from people that think they know, but they're not qualified to talk to you about mortgages or whatever that would be. I don't just limit that to mortgages, because it can be quite dangerous, because even though their situation might be broadly similar to yours, that your requirements might be completely different to theirs.
Yeah.
So a real good starting point, I would say, and with the market, it is probably the one big thing is that interest rates will be higher than if you looked at last year. But that's not to say that it's going to be a problem with your situation. So as a starting point, understand what your options are and do that as early as you possibly can.
Yeah.
I think think of it as a bit of a sat nav, if you like. So if you're trying to get somewhere on holiday or just in the car, you put your sat nav on, you know where you're trying to get to, and the sat nav will get you there in the quickest and most efficient way. Now, even if there are accidents, like I got stuck for 2 hours today, I don't know if I mentioned, if you get stuck in roadworks, stuck in traffic, accident, whatever it is, your sat nav will help divert you and get you back on track as quickly as possible. And so understanding your options, finding out what's possible, having a plan and working towards that plan, it may not go in a straight line, but broadly it's going to be moving towards that end goal. And that end goal is you getting onto the property ladder and getting into your first home. So really, as early as you possibly can, find out what your options are. Yeah. And use a good whole of market mortgage broker. Yeah. Because when I say whole of market, just to explain, a whole of market mortgage broker will have access to all of the lenders across the market. So all of the banks, the building societies, lots of other specialist lenders. So for example, I could list probably, I don't know, so probably over 100 lenders I could access for you if you came to me. They wouldn't necessarily all be suitable for you, but there's so many to choose from and to tailor, understand what your situation is, to then determine what not just what the best rates are, but which lender's most suitable, which one might lend you the most to help you get you the property you want. Yeah. So, and you made a good point there earlier about your friends, I think children it was, wasn't it? Grown-up children that are looking to buy their first home and are just maybe a bit worried about, have I saved enough? I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to feel like I don't know anything. Put that to one side, because certainly from my perspective, there's no judgment. From my perspective as a mortgage broker, and I know lots of other really good ones that really just want to help, and lots of people come to me, and they may not be necessarily ready to buy now, but by explaining, right, this is how much you could borrow now, this is how much you'd need as a deposit, these are what the buying costs might be, so you know how much you'd need to save up, then all of a sudden it starts to become really, really quite clear as to, right, this is the sort of thing that I could afford. This is then, okay, I need to do a bit of work. Maybe I need to get a promotion, need to do more overtime, bonus, commission, that sort of thing. Or it may just mean that I need to save some more money. And you've got something to work towards. Yeah. And if you've ever listened to my Ready to Buy podcast, one of the features is that there's definitely no silly questions.
I love that bit. It's like one of the best bits. It is, when you're doing anything for the first time, you do have the most clearly the most simple, basic questions, because you just don't know what you don't know. And I love that you embrace that and you actually celebrate. So, right, let's talk about, there's literally no question is a really stupid one, and you have a feature on your thing. And I love that. It's really important to know that, you mustn't feel embarrassed or silly in any way, because you're the expert. That's what you're there for, and somebody else is an expert in what they do, and they're not expected to know everything. I mean, it's just what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. When I put my car in for a service last week, when they talk to me, I don't really understand half the things that they're explaining. That's fine. I'm not the expert.
Alternators, yeah, alternators, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
The left phalange.
Yeah. That's Friends reference, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so true. And I think actually, if you've got a question and you don't answer it, it's things like that eat away at you and cause you stress, because you worry about things.
You think it's bigger than what it perhaps is. Yeah,
absolutely. And often, I mean, I always say that I don't necessarily know all of the answers, but I know where to find them. And so actually something that you think might be a real, it's quite often actually people come to me and you might be about to change job, or you might have, there might be something that you just think about your situation, your income, or something where you might have missed a credit card payment or been late 12 months ago. And in the grand scheme of everything else, the lender may not actually be that concerned.
Yeah.
When it comes to your credit file, of course, it's good to make sure that you make payments on time. But actually, we all make the odd blip, and so something like that could cause you real stress, and it might mean you're sitting there thinking, I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it. We'll put it off for a bit, and actually, there's no reason to do it. So really, understanding your options, and ultimately, a good mortgage broker will have your back, and they'll also, I'm there to hold your hand, metaphorically, of course, but to hold your hand through the whole process. And it's like we keep coming back to, but it should be such a fun, positive experience.
Yeah. And does it matter? So if anybody is listening to this on replay or whatever, and I think there's one or two people looking at the moment, if you've got any questions, please put them into the chat. But if someone lives, at the other end of the country and they like what you're saying and would like to talk to you, that's possible, presumably, because you're quite happy to do everything. Are you over Zoom?
Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
To meet anybody in person at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point there, because I see very few of my clients I'll actually go and meet, either them come to me or me go to them, because with the technology like we're using now, actually a Zoom call is a really good use of our time. I use Zoom, but of course there's Teams and all sorts of video technology. And actually it means that you can take half an hour to an hour out of your day for our initial call. I can start to understand your situation, requirements. We can give you a bit of an idea as to the process, what happens next. And then we get your documents, we go away, we get your documents through an online portal, we go away, do the research, present it back to you, and then we continue conversations from there. So if I told you that probably 10-15% of my clients are in Manchester, got lots in London, Bristol, York, Newcastle, it really doesn't matter where you are in the country. And that's probably one of the real positives that have come out of COVID. Appreciate that's maybe sounds a bit strange, but actually I've been offering Zoom calls prior to COVID, but a lot of people didn't really understand just how easy it was just to click on a link and talk to somebody through whether it's on your phone, whether it's on your tablet, whether it's on your laptop, computer. It's so easy. So really good point. But everything is remote and really doesn't need to take several hours. And what I would say as well is I really tried to break down that sort of stereotype of the sort of that sort of stuffy formal meeting where you dress up in your suit, you go and see your bank manager, and they then make a judgment and all that sort of thing. It's ultra relaxed. It's a nice conversation, and that's really how it should be.
So two more questions, I guess, before we wrap up. One of my questions is, does somebody have to pay to talk to you, or is it a free conversation? How does that work?
Yeah, really, really good question. So we charge a mortgage broker fee for proceeding with an application, if you like. So brokers will have different ways of charging, but most brokers now will charge a mortgage broker fee. I think we touched earlier on the fact that the sheer amount of work, that we do to make sure it's not just a matter of looking up some rates in a table. It's getting to know you, supporting you throughout the process, etc. So we typically charge a mortgage broker fee if we proceed with an application once you've found a property, and we choose to charge that fee once we've had it rubber stamped by the lender. So once we've got the mortgage offer. So if we didn't get to that stage, we wouldn't charge you. And that's my sort of ethos, if you like, because we don't want to take a fee from you if we don't get you to where you want to be, essentially. But it's something all brokers will be transparent about their or they need to be, because that's sort of part of our regulation. They'll be transparent, but certainly for a conversation to help you understand your options, there's absolutely no fee, no charges, and certainly no obligation to proceed with either me or any broker for that matter.
That's amazing. And lastly, I can't let you go without asking you my favourite topic of all, budgeting.
Of course, yes.
Does it make a difference when somebody comes to you for that conversation and they have got a beautifully laid out budget and they know their numbers and they know what they're doing?
It does help. And do you know what I would say? Somebody that comes to me that has got maybe one of your budget planners, for example, or shameless plug there, but in general,
later.
has or has a spreadsheet. It helps, but I would say from our perspective, what somebody that is organized like that with their budgeting will tend to be organized with other things. So things like your documents, things like your finances. So if you've got a budget planner, it's more likely that you'll be up to date with your monthly payments, and that you'll operate. I know you're a big champion of having separate accounts. So, for example, we often see we see clients with a range of different ways they manage their bank accounts. But I would typically say what's quite common is if there's a couple, for example, might have a joint account that's purely for bills. So they have their own separate salary account. Money goes in and they transfer a set amount across for the bills, mortgage, rent, whatever that might be, and then keep it separate just for their spending money. And of course, have another account to put, whether it's an ISA, whether it's savings, whether it's both, to put money separately. So with people that do that, I would say it probably helps them understand their finances better, probably helps them save quicker as well. So that's good. And from our perspective, because we do ask for some documentation, so part of the getting to know you process and part of the lender's due diligence process when we proceed with an application is to understand things like how you conduct yourself. So looking at your bank statements, looking at your pay slip just to prove your income, those types of things. So being organized, I would say, is really important and will really help. I would say from our perspective, we're really grateful when you come to us. If we ask you for your ID and you can provide us with a scan of your passport, if we ask you for 3 pay slips, you get your documents in PDF, nice, neat scanned documents. Bank statements, if you can get PDFs, or if you can, that's probably one of my biggest pleas actually as a mortgage broker. And you'll take
photos on your
please
on your computer. You've had that before. I know you have. So most people now will do online banking, and so what is most simple to get your statements is to go onto your online banking, and you should be able to print or download or save to PDF. Usually it's your last 3 bank statements for each of your current accounts. Now, if you only use your phone, for example, and some phone apps will not allow you to get a PDF, you may have to log into a PC or a laptop to obtain your bank statements. So what you can do to be in the best position, I would say, and prepare yourself, make sure you've got your login so you know how to, or you've got a way of accessing your online bank statements through a laptop, through a computer, so that when you're asked for it, it's literally as easy as you know, Lucy. You can get your PDFs of your bank statements in, usually it's a couple of minutes, isn't it? And even if you've got 2 or 3 different accounts and 3 months for each, so it might be 6 or 9 documents, you literally press a couple of buttons, download it, and it's simple. We use a client portal, so an online portal, so you can send your documents to us securely as well. So that's something as well, just to be mindful of. I would say when you're sending documents, just make sure there's a secure way of sending them, because if
emails aren't actually that secure. So if somebody intercepted, they've got all your details. So just be mindful of that when you send documents as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. We're about 24 minutes in. No questions have come through that I can see, at least. We are using StreamYard, and I know that's not always the easiest thing to see it coming through, but I think it's okay in terms of there not being any questions coming through. So please feel free, if you're watching this on replay at any point over the next several days, and you do have some questions, stick it in the chat, and either myself and or Mark will get back to you. But of course, you're more than welcome to get in touch with Mark yourself just directly. No problem at all. You can see his company name. We'll put all the how to get hold of you in the comments as well.
Perfect. Well, lovely. Thanks for inviting me on, Lucy. It's been good fun.
Thank you very much for coming on, and enjoy what's left of the evening.
Yep, we'll do. You too.
Take care of yourself. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.